Welcome to Leadership Beyond Burnout. I'm your host, Dr. Kimberly L. Wilson, and thank you very much for being here today. Today, we have a special guest. We have Keshia Martin. She is an energy alignment specialist. She's the founder of Universal Love, and she teaches techniques to shift energy to attract the right relationships in your life, whether that's love or business. Her life experiences have brought her a way to share techniques for self healing that she has used to pull people back from traumatic experiences, major life changes, and stress so that they can live a life of confidence, true understanding, and of self love. She's appeared on various podcasts as a thought leader for virtual conferences, and she was a guest on the Dr. Oz show. And without further ado, let us welcome Keshia Martin.
Hi, Dr. Kimberly. How are you?
Hello, thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited about having the opportunity to speak with you because I think a lot of people don't understand energy
hmm
and how that manifests in our lives and how we can even shift some of that energy and how it may lead to burnout. So, I'd love for you to share.
Are you going right in?
I'm gonna go right into it.
I'll
And
go right in.
I have to say be a little transparent. At first, I was really hesitant because I didn't understand what it meant, and I had to actually experience an energy shift to even accept it because it was a foreign concept to me.
hmm
Um, so it may be that way to some of our viewers, but I would at least like them to get introduced and discover how it can be helpful because it was very helpful to me.
Oh, thank
So,
you for sharing that.
so please share with us, what is energy alignment and what does that mean?
So, we are all spiritual beings, and everything actually is energy. And what we are doing is actually living this human experience. And all of the things that I just said just now may sound pretty cliche, like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But what does all that really mean? And
Right.
that took me for a loop too, because I'm coming just from, I'm just as human as everybody else. And when I first heard about it, I was like, what is this? So, energy alignment is actually feeling into the energy of the cosmos, everything that's around us, and actually tapping into those molecules that make us this human body, and feeling into what emotions, what experiences, what actual things has happened in this lifetime for us, as well as what's happened through maybe your parents or generational energy that has actually been transferred into you. Because
Mm,
what I learned was, although everything is energy, our emotions, our feelings, our thoughts, the physical things like our chair, everything that we're sitting on, all of that is energy.
right.
And what I learned was that in all of this stuff that's here, that's created, including our thoughts, that when we feel into that actual source
Mhm.
and we go to the source of what has happened to us, maybe a pain or some level of trauma, and we learn how to transmute that, then the other things that are wreaking havoc in our life will start to shift out. Okay. Um, does that help?
It, it it does, and I'd really love to hear how you began to hear about this information. Was it a burnout experience? Was it a major life transition? Or what happened to bring this to your awareness?
Okay. That was a great question. Now, what was I was going through? Um, I was awakened through things when my child was born. She started like would see and feel different things, and I was like freaked out. Um,
Hmm.
she's about 25 now, so it's about 25 years ago. This is when I first was like, okay, what's all of this? I came from a Christian background, reading my Bible and all the things, and when I saw this, I was like, I don't know what all this is. I can't do it. So then I was doing photography and design. I ended up getting married, had two more children. We stayed married for a period of time, and then when I was going through a divorce, I went back into I was like really I was running my own business but doing photography and design. I had three little ones and
Wow.
stressed out, stressed out. When I was doing the photography and design, I was working for small and mid-sized companies. I did weddings, um, headshots, as well as creating websites and stuff for. It varied on different industries, but towards the tail end, I was doing work with a lot of churches,
Mm.
and uh, they mentioned to me that I had a gift, and it was like like Baptists and other type of churches where they had prophets, prophetesses, and things like that, and they mentioned that they could see that I have a gift and an awareness. And honestly, Dr. Kim, y'all are crazy.
Okay. Like,
I
what do
was
you
like,
mean a gift?
yeah, I was like, they said I had the power to heal, and I was like, okay, whatever. And then like I just was completely away from it. But when I was
Hmm.
going through the divorce, my son came in the room and he like pouted into the room. He was like no more than 3 years old, and like threw the Bible down at me and said, "Here, read this," and walked out the room like somebody was bothering him. And I'm like, okay. And I heard a
Wow.
scripture. Yeah, I heard a scripture, and I was like, okay. And it was like Jesus in the wilderness. So I read the whole chapter, and I was like, okay. And then every day I would hear a scripture or more, and I would open up the Bible and I'd read it. And then after
Wait a
about
minute. Let,
several,
let me clarify for a second. When you say you heard a scripture, so that mean, did you remember a scripture, or um, you heard it in your head, or what do you mean by you heard the scripture?
I heard it in my head, like I would hear Romans 8:12.
Okay, so like the headings, like, okay, let me go read about Romans 8:12.
Yeah, Ezekiel 9, 10, 12. And I'm like, okay. Um, and I'm like, okay, well, and then one day I was like, well, how come they're always here? Like, I'm good at reading, but I'm not good at remembering everything.
Hmm.
So I'm definitely not a memorizer. So it was just like, and it's actually here. Like, and then I would like, wonder, well, who's telling me this? Like, where am I hearing this? Like, I know I read the Bible, but this is still a little, like every night, or I would just hear it randomly. So I was like,
Hmm.
okay. So then one morning, um, I went through and I heard five. I woke up one morning and I heard five scriptures. And I was like, okay, I'm going to church and I'm going to ask Pastor, you know, to help me understand what's happening to me. Why am I hearing scriptures? Why am I hearing this? And
Right.
so I
Probably
just,
frightening.
it was at first I was like, what is going on? And I just didn't know. And I was so stressed out with trying to take care of the kids and trying to work
Mhm.
with my business and trying to get over a divorce, like trying to get over it, like heal. Like the last thing on
Right.
my mind was, so I was like, am I going through something? Like what's happening?
Right.
And then when the kids used to see stuff, I'm like, do I need to do like a cleanse? Like what's going on with my space? Like I just wasn't sure what was happening. So I said, I'm going
Mhm.
to go ask Pastor what this is about, see if he can help me. I go to church, and when I get to church, he says the same five verses that I received that morning in the same exact order.
That you should check out these chapters and verses. Wow.
And I was like, so then I didn't talk to Pastor again. I said, this is how on earth can I get the same scriptures? And I've been to church at that time. I was so stressed, I wasn't even going to church. I was like, well, I wasn't going to church when things were great, so why am I going to go when it's bad? So I was like,
Wow.
I was in that bad mindset, and I was like, okay,
So you were so stressed, and I don't know, dare I say burnt out, that you what gave you energy, you couldn't eve energy or hope or blessings, some peace, you couldn't even access it. You began to isolate. And that's very big in burnout. You begin to stop associating with people and pleasurable activities.
exactly. Like I wasn't pouring back into my own cup, and I was like, well, like the story I told myself then was, well, I can't go because when things were great, you weren't going. So why use church now when you're bad?
Ah, you felt convicted.
I felt convicted, like I shouldn't. I never thought of it that way. But that's, yeah, I just said I'm not going to go because of that. And he would call like regularly, the pastor, just to see how I was doing and leave a verse. So I was like, I don't know what else. I said, well, maybe I should go now because something's calling me. My son walks into the room, hands me the Bible. And since then, I've been seeing, hearing, and seeing verses. So, and now I go to church. How on earth is it possible for the pastor and I, who haven't spoken in months, probably
Mhm.
years, and for us to get the same verses, the same information? And
Right.
then I started to wonder, how is this possible? You know, because when I first and like looking back now in hindsight, I could say, well, I was reading the Bible with like looking at stories and this and that. But somehow I think a lot of us, and I may be just speaking for myself, well,
Mhm.
those were the stories in the Bible. Like, how often is it happening now?
So this was oh, I'm reading about the past. It doesn't really,
I mean, it's
ain't got
going
nothing
on
to do with
today.
today.
Right.
Or
I-
as my dad would say, what does that have to do with the price of peas?
right. So I was just like, and then who am I? Like who am I to be getting anything? So I started on a journey
Mhm.
to understand spirituality. Who is this God? And I studied different religions, not necessarily for me to be practicing it, but for me to just have understanding and wisdom and clarity. Because I said the same thing that a person, whether they are called psychic here or they're called prophet here or prophetess here, whatever name that they give themselves, you're essentially
Mm,
all doing the same thing. Like you're all receiving information from somebody.
you know what? I you just opened my eyes dramatically because I had not really thought about that. In that it's something different in various religions and even in secular things. It's called something different, but it's all the same. And societies found some acceptable and others are demonized. I hadn't even
Exactly.
considered that. Thank you.
You're welcome. And how I found it was like I know I wasn't doing anything. I was just being a mom. I'm just running my business. I'm just trying to figure things out for myself. I was pretty much burned
Oh,
out.
that's fine because we're having a little bit of technical difficulties too. So
Yeah, I see, like it's like chopped.
it's okay.
And I was like, okay, so we're going through all this, and now I need to figure out why I needed to discern. How do I know you're good, and how do you
Mhm,
know you're bad? Like, what am I receiving? Just because you're giving me a
mhm,
scripture doesn't mean I should follow you. I would just needed to understand. So when I tried to
right.
figure out what is happening to me, sadly, when I went to different, churches, I don't think they understood what I'm talking about either. So I'm not gonna like, demonize them or penalize them for that. But I didn't get like open arms help. It just was like, well, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing.
Now, now could you I think we're having a little. Okay, and if you could repeat that, we had a little technical difficulty. You were discussing when you would go to different pastors and their experience and your experience with that.
Yeah, when I would have different experiences, because there was times like, not to scare anybody, but these things happen. Like the energy is real, and there's good and bad in the scene world where we're experiencing, like we're seeing what's happening in different places, whether it was happening in Israel or whether we see a war, whether we see police brutality, racism. We see good and bad presently in today's world.
Mhm,
And what was important and what helped, what happened to me on my journey to wake me up, what shook me up, because a lot of fear kicked in first, was the unseen world and what's good and bad over there.
okay.
So when I would have experiences, for example, one time we went to a loved one's funeral, and I think it was from that period. Shortly afterward, there was a this like spirit inside my home where my small child would see it,
Mhm,
and then she would start screaming, and there was times that there was things that would happen, and I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do. And I'm from Jamaica, so we did the Caribbean thing, like spray out the house and like cleanse, and
mhm.
then I went to church and got some holy water. I put it on the doorways. I was doing everything I could to like clear this space up. And then I remember asking people, and they were like, "Look," that's when the pastor gave me. He was like, "Well, here's the." I don't know what you into, but there's the holy oil. And so I felt like I was always looked at like I was doing something and I wasn't doing anything but trying to take care of everything, like
Okay.
being a normal mom, taking care of stuff. I remember I used to always have a pet, like a cat. And
Mhm.
at the time I was like, you know what, we're gonna get something here to help me out. So we went and got a dog. It was a boxer, and we picked the quietest boxer in the whole lot. Like he didn't bark, he didn't do anything the
Mhm.
whole time at the kennel. We go through the ride, we visit the neighbors, they all see the boxer. Everybody loves the boxer. As soon as he gets to my front door, Dr. Kimberly, like he saw whatever it was, and then it was like a thing. So at that
Mm.
point, I realized there's some things that we can't see that's good and that's bad, and it's just as real as what we see outwardly. That's good.
So how does that, if I'm a person in leadership and I'm experiencing burnout, or maybe just feeling distressed in certain work relationships, how do I begin to shift that energy or shift the relationship so that it's either healthy or better, or what would I do?
Um, to start, it's usually to ask, like something that a technique that I have my clients do is to see if that's even theirs. Because
Mm,
just as was it Sir Isaac Newton said, the energy can never be destroyed; it can only be merely transferred.
right.
We transfer energy back and forth with people that we are interacting with, things that we watch on television, music that we listen to on the radio, um, as well as the unseen world and things around us. And that's the craziest thing about everything, which makes me do what I do, is to learn, is to help share with folks that some of the stuff that you are experiencing may be something from the unseen as well as you being drained from someone else. So
Mm,
when you move into a room or a space, you may come into a space and like, oh God, it doesn't feel good in here. Instantly,
right.
your body knows. And the reason how it knows is because the same physical five senses you have to hear, smell, taste, touch, feel, we actually have it as a spiritual being. So what I'm doing when I as an energy alignment specialist, I also I teach you how to awaken what's already there within you.
Okay.
So, and anyone watching this video can really like take a couple deep breaths and just feel into your body and start to recall times that you just knew something. The times where something was showing up in your life and everyone just believed it was this, but somewhere inside of you, you knew, no, it's really this. And then it wasn't until hindsight you like realize, oh, how did I just know that? You might have just knew to turn right instead of go straight, and it saved you from getting into an accident. There's times that each of you may have thought of somebody, and as you thought of them, they either called you or they just showed up. There's times you've left the house and you're like, oh my God, I don't want to get a red light. I don't want to get a red light. And then all of a sudden you get all the red lights. It's like you just manifested everything you didn't want. And then
Mhm.
there's other times you may have just felt inside of your body, oh, I just can't wait it'd be cool if somebody just like treated me to lunch today or I found $50. And then somehow it just magically occurred,
So let
or it
just
feels
let me
magic.
make sure that I'm following everything.
Okay.
So part of what you're calling energy, I also hear that people call it intuition, serendipity, luck, inner knowing, and I forgot the Bessel, what he talks about, the body keeping the score, just tapping into your, and positive intelligence would call this your sage, tap into what's going on in your environment. So I can see, if I'm understanding what you're saying, that there are various levels from the scientific range to the spiritual energetic range, and everyone is discussing the same thing. It's just a matter of what lens you want to use and how you want to interpret that. And when you understand any of those levels, to stop me if I'm messing up, if you want to understand any of those levels or harness them, you address it in the way of that model. Is that correct?
So to speak, because there's something that's created us, our creator. We call
Mhm.
it God. I still say God, has created everything here. And we've been trying to figure out how, what, and when we can't figure it out, mankind has discounted it and demonized it and said, no, that's not it. And we keep searching and searching and searching. In the Western world, I call the West, the North America, South America, we tend to do everything outside of ourselves for answers. If you need
Right.
help, you go to another person. If you want to learn something, you go here. You pray, in the Eastern culture, there's more meditation, which we're
Mhm.
seeing like a crossover now.
Right.
And the framework that one of the frameworks that I teach is to meditate, apply, pray. And so you're going to meditation is the art of quieting your mind, taking the deep breaths. But on a spiritual aspect, on a physical aspect, breathing slows you down, relaxes you, gets you into a space of center. On a
Right.
spiritual aspect, you get to commune with your creator. You get to actually receive and hear, um, intuitively, you know, what it is that, an answer to what you prayed for. You get to hear and be still for it. And they all work hand in hand. So that way, when there's an old saying where they say the devil is busy, and God takes
Mhm.
his time. And that's actually kind of, God does do things in his time, but his time doesn't mean slow. Um,
Mm.
then that's where I think that saying gets misunderstood and feeling like you have to be patient and you have to wait. But the patience doesn't necessarily mean 5 years or 10 years. Because if you were still enough and you have the faith of a mustard seed, which is like a really tiny, tiny little seed, it can move mountains. And we have a stronger ability inside of us that what none of us, that most of mankind have learned not to believe it.
Mm.
But if you can believe and you meditate, you can receive the intuitive guidance. So that way you can start to operate from your heart space and
Mhm.
release the mind and the chatter, which is what holds a lot of us up. When we have that mind and that chatter, what happens is we can burn out easy because we're wearing ourselves thin with all of the false information in our head. So I say, if you're in your head, you're dead because you're really just operating in like a hamster in a wheel.
Okay.
But if you
So
open
go
up to
ahead.
yeah, if you could open up into your heart, you can really receive and release the energy so that way you're not falling into that space of burnout.
So what I'm really curious about, and I really hope you have an answer to this, for those leaders who have a challenge of finding that quiet space to meditate or even um, making the time to do so, is it possible to find moments of stillness in the midst of chaos or their busy day?
Oh yeah, definitely. Each person's different. Some folks, it's hard for them to stay still. And the staying still may create two things. One, it may start to bring them into a space of trauma and their triggers come up. So now it's really difficult for them to be still. So that stillness is just way too uncomfortable. So a way
Right.
of meditating for them may be walking, maybe putting on some music, dancing. It's just allowing yourself to get out of your head and the constant thinking. So doing something that can take your mind off of the thing, what's
Right.
stressing you. Practicing meditation can also start as simple as 5 minutes when you first wake up, before grabbing your phone or turning on the TV or reading something or anything that will stimulate you. Just taking even 5 minutes laying right where you are and just breathing and just, being aware of your space, maybe feeling into your body, how the room is, what sounds you're hearing, how your arms feeling, how your foot's feeling. And just being in that moment and being present is a form of meditation. Um,
I like that you said that because I tried that in a meeting just this Monday.
mhm,
Um, so I focused on I focused on first on my eyes and something that I was looking at and really got into the detail and the shapes and how it must feel. And then I began to focus on my breathing and then my uh, different parts of my body and tactile sensation. And that all took just 2 minutes.
mhm.
But I just wanted to do it quickly to see, can I calm some of the chatter and just to get back in touch with my body and where I'm at and how I'm feeling. And it was really helpful.
Oh, good. I'm glad you did that. And you're right. You can do that anywhere because once you start practicing it, like somebody's just starting it in the morning, before you know it, you could do it just like you did it. And no one will know. I could sit right here and like, let me just focus on my breathing instead. Let me not. Because when you focus, see, the mind can only focus on one thing at a time. We think we're like out there doing all these things, but we're not. Um, so when
Mm,
you, so when you focus on your breathing, you now separated from all the thoughts. And by focusing on a point, that's a great point. Now you brought yourself to a point of just focusing on that one thing, and now the thoughts just go away. And sometimes you have to have a nice little self-talk with yourself and say, no, I'm stronger than my mind.
right, right. So would that be a good place to insert affirmations or positive thoughts or look at an image that is positive?
That can be the things with affirmation is sometimes it's helpful to help you start to think another way,
Mhm.
because if you don't believe those things about yourself, the brain's going to kick in and tell you you're lying to yourself.
Absolutely.
And then you're going
Oh,
to think it's fake, and then you're going to be mad, and then you're just going to chuck the whole thing, and you're not going to have the result or the elevation that you're looking for.
right. Oh, I'm so glad that you said that because I've seen that happen to so many, I think especially entrepreneurs because the what's being sold out there in social media is that everybody's, I'm a millionaire. It's a millionaire mindset. Get with me. You'll make $100,000 months. And a- and it's very difficult for someone who may be in feast or famine mode still in their business
100%.
to
Did you
think,
sleep?
to really
Mhm.
believe I make $100,000 a month.
And then you're looking around your house like, no, I don't.
No, I don't. I'm just trying to keep all the software that I pay for.
No, you're not doing.
I'm
Don't get me started.
I'm trying to keep my virtual assistant. I'm not at $100,000. So I could definitely see and have seen how when they don't believe those affirmations, they um, they just fall by the wayside. So that negative energy still remains. They haven't changed their mindset, is what so it's energy and mindset. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the energy does help with the mindset. So what I've learned through the healing work, from myself and my personal journey, as well as the journey that I help with my clients, is
Mhm.
that both are needed. You definitely need the energy as well as the mindset, because it's like if you only deal with the mindset issue, it's like going out to weed your garden and you're just
Mhm.
pulling the weed up at the top. If you're not getting it out from the root, it's going to resurface in another area of your life, if not the
Right.
very same area. Because, and the reason behind this is, and they call it different things in different cultures, whether it's generational curse, karmic, this, cord. You need to cut the cords from people. There's so many words and terminologies about the same thing that I'm about to address. And
Right.
what science is doing is proving how, or it's trying to understand, is coming up with concepts with how God created all of us. And um, what I've learned is that the DNA, our DNA, the epigenetics of our DNA
Mhm.
holds up to 6 generations of trauma.
Wow.
6 generations of trauma. Now, that's something anybody could look up. And
Mm.
if our DNA is holding 6 generations and we have two parents and then they have parents, that's a lot of things that we're carrying. And if you think about different cultures that have recently just come out of 6 generations ago, there was just slavery right here in the US. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So-
3 or 4 for some people.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
there's that trauma that they've endured. So if their parents or parents or their ancestors overall has gone through financial disparity, they've gone through feeling bad about themselves, they've gone through rape, um, sexual trauma, or they've gone through any form of abuse, physical, mental, emotional.
Mhm.
This is embedded inside of them and being transferred down into the next generation.
Now you are not gonna believe this, but this is 100% true. Just prior to us doing this interview, a very good, friend of mine, colleague, workplace, just a real bestie, we were talking about, some of the diversity, equity, and inclusion experts,
Mhm,
and that sometimes it seems very confrontational. And this isn't a criticism. We're talking about how we experience it,
mhm,
and my tendency to want to avoid. And I said to her, I said, sometimes when I see a post or I hear someone from DAI making some statements, it kind of activates in me this slave mentality of, oh, you better not say that, master gonna get you. You better watch out, you know.
mhm.
You're not gonna get hired. And I'm not, no, I'm not in that circumstance, nor have I ever been, but that fear that you are not your own person and there's going to be some backlash and we need to be afraid is still very real,
It's
even
still very
though all the work I've done.
so. And that's the power of the type of work that I do with folks, is to help go into the energy and the source of where this has started. So like if in a session with me, it's easy
Mhm,
for me to see where the energy is in a person and where they're carrying it, in their body or
mhm,
in their auric field. And as I start to clear it, there's different people that might pop up that's related to you, maybe your father, your mother,
mhm.
past lover, children, and I start to see the source of that energy and then clear that. And there's times I have to clear that person too. So at least we help break that generational trauma, because once again, everything is energy. So once
Right,
everything is energy, now we're moving into the space of where things have started back in whatever period of time to help clear you. So that way you can now feel like, okay, I'm actually feeling at peace again. I actually can be authentically happy without
right.
feeling stressed and worried about, because there's times a lot of folks, they see a lot of things that are good in their life, but it's hard for them to be like grateful about it. It's like they
Mhm.
always feel like they're being punished, or, like they have to consistently pay their due, like they're not worthy
Yeah,
of experiencing joy. And they
right,
don't know where it's coming from, because they may look at their life like, oh my God, I have this wonderful car, I have this wonderful home, my kids are healthy, but I'm still not happy. What's wrong? What am I feeling on the inside? And
right.
what I've found is a lot of this stuff is being pulled from the unseen world. It's not as woo-woo as people think. It
Mhm,
really isn't. Like I was looking at something and I was watching how I have a dog, and I can see how we know animals can see things that aren't there. And then science has proven that they have different level of cones in their
mhm,
eyes to give them a further depth perception, just like a hawk could
mhm.
see, from a certain height versus what we can see, the level of
Okay.
sharpness and depth. And I feel as though the unseen world is the same. Like it's just something our physical eyes are unable. But I think to see, I think once you start to open it up in certain ways, I mean, there's a lot more. That's a whole other conversation. But then you can allow yourself to see it. Like when um, I think that we were designed a specific way,
Mhm.
and what I'm doing is helping people to reopen themselves, reawaken things that we should have been taught when we were babies, or now
Mhm.
reopening it so that way you can be able to really feel the power of prayer, really allowing yourself to tune in and operate from that divine, authentic self and be aware when something might tap itself into your energy. Maybe somebody's thinking about you too hard. Maybe
Mhm.
they have a lot of stuff going on and they're leaning to you for support. And now all of a sudden you're feeling drained, not realizing why. All of
Right.
these things can start to, if you, with the knowledge and power of how to do these things, uh, this spiritual new age thing, that's another topic for another day because that's gotten a little crazy too.
Yeah.
But it won't seem as woo woo as what we think it is. And that the
Okay.
things that Jesus or the things that Buddha, but his real name is actually Yeshua, but
Mhm.
the Yeshua, Buddha, and all the other teachers that have come about before are trying to teach you is that we have these gifts inside of us. You know, just like
Mhm.
when Peter was walking across the water and he was like, "I don't believe," and all of a sudden he's falling. You know,
Mhm.
he was saying the same things that we have these gifts and abilities inside of us.
Right.
What's happening when I do work now is going through these codes, going through what's happening, or maybe something is trying to attach itself to you and releasing you from that so that way you can, and teaching you self so that way you can be more aware and not allow these things to interfere with who you are and your success level and your clarity as a owner, business owner, human being, mother, father.
Leader. And
Leader. Yeah.
so what I'm hearing, I'm thinking about it earlier in the conversation when you talked about people carrying things that are not their own, and noticing how you feel when you're around people, and that I think in psychology that would be having setting boundaries and awareness and mindfulness, and if it doesn't feel good, pay attention to that, how you're feeling about a situation. So I do
Mhm.
see it definitely on similar levels. And if people believe that energy isn't viable, you can just see how that when you go in certain environments or you get it around certain people,
Mhm.
you may either begin to shift your thinking about something, or just feel very different, feel very heavy. I can think about times when we'll just say I was around certain people, and it was just like, ugh, when you get alone, it's just like, oh my goodness, I need to fill myself back up. I need to recover from this experience. And I'm really good with not picking up what people are putting down. If my name is not on it, I'm not taking it. You might
Right.
try and give it to me, but I am like a wall. Let it bounce right back to you because I'm not taking it. I'm real good. I'm a real good listener.
Mhm. And spirits tell me to say something now to somebody. I think someone out that's watching this is gonna need to hear this. It's not always the other person that's pushing their stuff on you. Some of you have bigger hearts than you probably need to have, where you care so much about certain people that you actually are inflicting that energy that's cord to be attached to you for you to take it on.
Oh, so they're saying, "Oh, you can't handle this. Just I'll take
I
care of.
want
Do
to
you
help.
want me to do it?"
I don't want you going through that. I don't want you going through that. And they're just like, let me done. No, I don't want that on me anyway. But this is what they need to do. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, God, you know what? She going through a lot. I need you to help her. And just
right.
disconnect yourself because sometimes that over caring, you're bringing this onto yourself.
Absolutely. And I've definitely seen that with managers who like to micromanage, who like to baby some employees, and they end
Mhm.
up taking all of that on, or taking away the responsibility, and they're at home working on stuff because their employees going through something. So
Mhm.
naturally, I'll do it because I can do it quicker than they can,
Oh,
or
yeah.
they have kids to take care of. The apps, I'm so glad that you shared that you're
Inviting it. And then
inviting it into your life.
I also thought about something too in regards to the burnout. There's a certain level, and I think you've seen this, and you could probably talk about it some more. Is that when you get into a space of burnout, it's almost like you're so used to that level of pain or trauma or being in this specific zone, you're numb to feeling good anymore. So now you're just adding and adding and adding to your load. So you're even more burnt out than you even realize. You're so numb from actually feeling good that it's become a new lifestyle. And then
Right.
breaking your habit out of that space. So now, like, you're already here and you probably need to take breaks, have a day off, spend time with your family and balance your life. But you're so used to it, you're like, no, I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it. And now
Hmm.
you're just adding more to your plate. Well, you can't do it. It's okay. I'm already working. Let me just add more to it.
Right. They stay in that same negative negative cycle or negative loop because you continually have the same experiences,
And it,
and can't
mhm.
create a different reality if you keep having the same experiences.
And it may not all be negative because they may be getting positive results. Like they may be like kicking butt with building their business. They may be seeing a lot of positive things manifesting physically for them.
Right.
But on the flip side, they're tearing apart their body, their whole temple. They're not physically happy. They're not emotionally happy anymore. They've
Right.
lost the relationship with their wife, their husband, their children. They don't have like downtime to know what's even to be relaxed they're not enjoying their human experience anymore.
Right.
Everything has become a job. Everything has been put on the to-do list. And the
Right.
only way they really know, they've gotten so used to doing this that they're on the inside, their head is still going and
Right.
they're not really truly happy. And they, because they're so used to this, now the relationships have all been so disconnected. They don't have no one to talk to
Right.
because
Yeah,
they've created this persona of being a certain way, but inside only they know how uncomfortably unhappy.
yes. I had a couple once a very long time ago, and
Mhm.
the female partner said, "Well, we need to put this in my schedule." Not like, "Let's plan some time to be together," but
Mhm.
she wanted to schedule when they were intimate. Not to have a baby, but, like, to know that that's supposed to happen.
You mean
Like a literal, like a time slot?
to have sex? Can
Yes.
I say that word on here?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You can definitely say that,
You have to
but
put in the calendar to have sex.
absolutely. And the look on her partner's face was so dejected because he felt like something on a to-do list. That's what you mentioned, and that's exactly what was happening. There was no joy, there was no intimacy, there was no um and that relationship did not last, as you can you can guess, because no one wants to be penciled in for
Now she
intimacy.
sounds like she landed completely in her masculine energy and what needed to happen. Because as women, we are still women, and there is a masculine and feminine energy that we each have, men and women have. But that balancing is what really connects us into those relationships. Whether it's on a professional level, but even more on an intimate level. And
Mhm.
wow,
Yes.
yeah.
Uh, so I know we could go in so many directions because you have a lot of skill sets, and I love that you can look at relationships from a personal and professional level and have that energy and the mindset. If there is one, you already gave us some ways to meditate and begin to shift some of that energy. Is there any last words that you would like to impart um, as we begin to close out the show?
Um, Always be in tune with yourself. and to trust yourself. And that's probably the biggest, sounds easy, but it's probably one of the hardest obstacles. And you don't realize how much you don't trust yourself because we're looking at tangible things. We first start off at success that we've
Mhm.
had and we stick there. But then we have to move further in. It's got like an onion with layers. And that inner layer is our spiritual being.
Mm.
And that's the person I'm referring to.
Wow. The person that's hidden all the way at the very core of the onion layer.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much. I really appreciate having you
Thank
today.
you for having
And,
me.
and would you like to say where people can find you before we leave?
Oh, sure. You can find me at KeshiaMartin.com. Spelled like Keshia. Kesha, Keshia, Martin.com. And I'm on all major platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. But if you go to my website, you'll find me everywhere.
And let me apologize as well because I mispronounced your name. Forgive me. Uh, and thank you for being here so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And you said my name right. That's just something I've been playing with. I was like, maybe I should change the pronunciation.
Whew. Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. I like to respect people and their names because they're very important to call
It
people
is.
by their name. So
Mhm.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our time today.
I did as well. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. This is Dr. Kimberly L. Wilson here on Leadership Beyond Burnout. And we are here every Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific and 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Until next time, we shall see you later.